Film finance, according to a recent survey I held on Facebook last year with a number of directors groups, is the number one problem that directors on a worldwide basis are suffering from. I know last year that when I made my movie Bad Romance, it would have been a lot easier if we'd had more money coming in from film financiers. And if you're here today on this very exciting interview, I'm sure that you'd also like to know how to finance a movie. And today, we are all blessed with a very special guest who's going to share some of his secrets and knowledge with us. Tom Malloy is our guest tonight in our very first special series designed to help new and independent filmmakers alike. I'm very excited to be doing tonight's call. Hello and welcome. I am Tim Bennett from Awesome FM. It's a place where we talk and discuss film topics with some of the most awesome people in the world. But just before we get going, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. You can hear me, Tom?
Yes.
Sam, you can hear me, and Jane, you can hear me okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's 9:30, or just after 9:30, East Coast America. It's about 2:30 downtown New Delhi, and it's almost 10:30 here in Manila, where I'm living. And it's great to have you all here. If you have any questions for Tom as we go along, please type them into the chat box, and we'll open some of the lines and talk to some of you later on. So let's get going. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Malloy. Hey, good to have you here, Tom.
Fantastic. What a huge round of applause. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's really fantastic having you here. And despite all the technical obstacles we had,
sure.
Where are you based right now?
Right now I'm on the East Coast in New York. I'm normally in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But for, I'd say, the next 3 to 6 months, I'll be on the East Coast.
Great. It's a long time since I've been to New York. Maybe, wow, 15 years.
It's changed since then.
I bet it has.
Yeah.
I came to America when it was very easy to get into the States.
Yeah. It's unfortunate the way it's been lately. It's been tougher and tougher.
Yeah. Okay, so Sam says he's from Syria. Wow, awesome, Syria. So we've got a worldwide international conference tonight, America, Syria, and the Philippines. So before we get going, Tom, let's have a quick overview of who you actually are and what you've been doing in the movie world. This is actually the first time that you and I have ever spoken. So I'm very interested in knowing what you've been doing. So maybe you could just give us a little background about yourself.
Sure. I started as an actor and still am in many ways. And, that was back in 98, I believe. I did a movie called Gravesend. I mean, it was one of the 4 lead actors, and we shot it on the streets of Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, we would literally, we improv the whole movie. We would literally go up to a street corner, and there'd be a gang of thugs there, and we'd say, you guys want to shoot a fight scene? And they'd be like, yeah, okay. And a big fight would break out, and we'd capture it all on camera. And when we were done with that movie, we got Oliver Stone to put his name on it. It was in theaters.
Oh, cool.
And so, it was called Gravesend. And what happened was, it wasn't the hit we thought it was going to be. And I did a couple things here and there and didn't, I was young. I didn't know really how to manage my career at that point. And eventually, to make a long story short, I just started trying to learn everything I could about the film business in every aspect. I mean, down to editing. I mean, I knew everything, as much information as I could. And started producing almost as a means to an end. Started kind of raising money, kind of created my own method out of desperation, out of saying, I became a really powerful writer. I've now sold 16 scripts. I'm in the Writers Guild. And in that, I kind of got behind one of my scripts and said, well, I want to make this, and I want to be in this role, and got a director. The first movie I did this with was called The Attic, and I got the director of Pet Sematary, and just by the strength of the script, and we made it. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, and it kind of that was a little disappointing, but it was a great lesson, and I raised all the money myself on that. And so it was like that started it. And I remember back then, that was 2005, I kind of told an agent, you know, hey, I'm an actor, writer, producer, and she was like, you know, you got to pick one of those. You can't be all three. And the joke was, now, if you would go to that same agent or another agent, they would recommend that. They would say, well, listen, you got to act, write, and produce. I mean, so I kind of was a trendsetter in a way, in that regard. But I mean, the rest of the story goes that I've now done 8 films. I've raised, you know, over $20 million for private equity for films, and for my projects and for other projects. And, you know, I recently completed a stint as the head of film production for a company called New Films International. So, I mean, I was kind of in high demand as far as my money raising and putting films together, and I speak across the country. And the last thing I'd like to say is I wrote this book, Bankroll, that's become the kind of the gold standard as far as film financing. It's in bookstores everywhere, and you know, you can get it on Amazon and all that. And that was really just all my techniques on raising money kind of put into a book.
That sounds awesome. I remember watching Pet Sematary many years ago, and I also believe you're in or part of anger management. Is that right?
Oh yeah. When that was one after Gravesend, just trying to you know, do the only the acting thing. But you know, the joke about that was the roles after Gravesend. My first role ever is a lead role in a film that Oliver Stone's got his name on, and then it goes from that to like. Then it was like, you know, a featured character on Law and Order SVU, and then a couple lines on Third Watch, and then I'm like, you know, in the background in a couple movies. And so there was, like, I feel like I went the actually opposite path. And by the time, you know, anger management, I think I played the right fielder for the New York Yankees, but it was like, it was just less and less and less. And I'm like, this is the exact opposite of the way I should be going. So I had to put a change to that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have Oliver Stone as part of your intro, no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that really helped Gravesend, you know. But down the road, you know, as I did these other films, working with bigger people, I mean, Alphabet Killer, we had Rob Schmidt, who directed Wrong Turn. We had Timothy Hutton, Carrie Elways, Eliza Dushku, Michael Ironside. They were all the cast. I was the third biggest role in there. And in both The Attic, the joke about The Attic is it got bad reviews, but the only good reviews was my performance. And it was me and John Savage and Elizabeth Moss, who's the star of Mad Men. And I was the only one that got the good acting reviews, but the film itself got panned. But Alphabet Killer did much better, and especially on video, it made a killing. And then we went on. I did a movie called Love and Dancing, where I co-starred with Amy Smart, and Betty White was in the movie, and Billy Zane. And we had the director of She's All That, a guy named Rob Iskov, and yeah, I mean, it was things are, you know, going great, and I unfortunately with this last job got away from performing, and that's something, you know, everybody kind of has to have their own path, and I want to go back to acting and performing and comedy and things like that, but you know, in the meantime, I know all these techniques, so now as far as raising money and helping people put their films together, so now I do conferences, I do consulting on films. People hire me to just come in and help them, you know, shape their project so they can have a better chance of getting it going or a better direction. And that's really what I do kind of on the side is to keep myself alive in the film business.
And was this something that you wanted to do since you were a kid, or was it something that developed as you got older?
I wanted to be an actor since I was, let me think. I think since I was a sperm cell, I think I wanted to be an actor. And so that was always, you know, it was always part of the film business for me. Now, producing
That's so funny.
And writing happened as osmosis. You know what I mean? Like you're just there and writing. Let me try to write a script. You know, and then by about the 4th script, I was really, you know, I started to pick up techniques and a skill level. And now it's like I'm really great writing scripts. Like I said, I've made a ton of money writing scripts. And producing was just, you know, if you went back to Tom Malloy, the producer, one of the producers on The Attic. I had a couple of veteran producers with me. I was the kid who didn't know anything, you know, and was afraid to even raise his hand, you know, and now I'm the guy running the show, and, you know, those people back then, they would all be asking me questions. And so I kind of, you know, you get your learning curve, and my learning curve was quick, I guess. Or steep, I guess would be the way to say.
It's funny how the tables turn, how those people who say you can't do this are the ones that come back and say, can I be part of it?
Exactly, especially if it's a project just funded these days. You'll have, you know, you'll have it. It's like the train is moving and everybody wants to try to jump on and get a piece of it, and catch on. Hey, can I cater it? Can I do that? I mean, like people come out of the woodwork. My niece does makeup. Can she get on it? And it's just
Wow.
it's fun.
Well, I wanted to make a movie when I was 15 years old. That was, I think, the first time that it sort of came into my head that I'd like to do that. But the cost of making movies, I grew up in England, mainly around London, the northeast area. And the cost of making movies in London was horrendous, and it scared me away. And then about 14 years ago, I moved out to Manila, where I still am now in the Philippines. And, the cost of everything out here are much lower. And I got involved doing special effects lasers out here. I've been doing lasers for about 21, 22 years now. And we did a project which brought me out to Manila. And, slowly I got the money together, and I realized that the opportunities out here were, very different. And last year we made 2 movies, and we're just about to release. In fact, the 12th of February, we're actually having our advanced screening of the first movie that I've co-produced. So I'm a virgin in this business, and this is why I wanted to help other people, was because I struggled so much with film finance, and I used my own money to finance the movie, and it's something I don't want to do again particularly. I really like the idea of using other people's money. And I thought that with the obstacles that I had putting the money together, and the other directors that I see around me, I thought it would be a good idea to approach people like you who are experts to find out different ways of doing it and put all these together in one website so that we can help the industry generally. And that's where the series of interviews came from. Film finance has been a problem for a lot of my friends out here in the Philippines, and I did a survey on Facebook to about 20 or 30 different directors groups last year asking what their biggest problems were, and the 3 biggest problems were sent back to me, and number 1 by far was film finance. So I know this is going to help a lot of people. Was finance something that hindered you when you first started?
Well, yeah, and continues to hinder me, and continues to hinder everybody, and you have to kind of get in that mentality of we're all in the same boat. It's like Clint Eastwood is begging to get his films made, and barking for his lunch, and I mean, that's just one example. I mean, Martin Scorsese. I mean, there's everybody. It is a business, and everybody has to understand that, and so we're all artists in a way, and want to just, hey, I just want to make art, you know what I mean? But it's, at the end of the day, it's not the same as just buying a canvas and painting something, because if no one buys it, then you're okay. You haven't wasted that much money.
Yeah.
But in this case, the movies, you've wasted a lot of money.
Absolutely.
A lot of people's money. If you make something that's not a marketable product that could turn, a profit, and that's really one of the main cruxes of the problems. I mean, there's an old joke: how do you make a small fortune in independent film? And the answer is you invest a large fortune. and that's a horrible way to think about it. But at the end of the day, that's what's been proven, is that unless you kind of go in with that marketing mindset from the beginning, you could be in big trouble. But the key is. And let me say this to the people on the line that not knowing directors, producers, writers, actors, I say in my book, it's the golden rule. He or she who has the gold makes the rules, and there's no real ladder sometimes in the film business. You don't, go to this rung and then the next rung and the next rung. It may not work that way. You sometimes have to say, I'm here, I'm on this step. And if you have the money and you want to say, oh, well, I'm playing this role, or I'm directing, or I'm going to be, well, the writer's okay. The writer, as long as the script's good. But you're going to make this script if I have the money. So any of those things, it's if you can get that money, if you can get the financing, then you're in control and you can be steering the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, and I noticed that when I was involved in the movie. We've just made a movie called Bad Romance, which is the one that's coming out in February. And this really is like my first major step into movies. But because I had a checkbook in my hand, the doors opened and the trumpet started playing, and I really felt like I was in charge quite a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
veteran directors were saying, "What do we do now?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me. I'm just writing checks."
Yeah. 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 It's
Okay,
you know
so
it.
go on.
It's tough. Yeah, no, I was going to say it's tough. I mean, in that regard, especially when you're using your own money, then you have to be really frugal. I did it once when I was real. I mean, that was just kind of experimenting back when I was still. This is 90, right after Gravesend. I was just kind of messing around or whatever. But yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it, and it's scary. It's a lot scarier in that regard, because then you could really lose your shirt, so to speak. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So let's imagine I've got a killer script. It
yeah.
just fell into my hands, and I want to make a movie from it. What should I do next? What's the first place to start?
Well, the first place to start is to kind of understand, that, and this theoretically could have happened before you made your script, but if you have your script already, you're going to have to deal with it. But to understand what kind of budget you're talking about, meaning if you wrote a script and man, it's killer, but the opening scene is 20,000 soldiers storm the field, and they can't be CGI soldiers, you're in trouble already if you're trying to do an independently financed feature film. That's a studio film, and you should be trying to sell the script like you'd sell a studio script, and just trying to sell that script. But if you want to make the film, so what I'm kind of saying there is you want to think from a producer's mindset before you even write the script. I used to help people. That was one of the things I would kind of do consulting and give them notes on their script and take little scenes and say, I mean, for example, there was this one script that I did this for where it was supposed to show this little girl's kind of isolation, and she was sitting on a school bus, and and no kids were talking to her. It's like, okay, I can get that scene. All right, so now you have the school bus, you have the drivers, you have 30 extras and the kids, and oh man, this is going to be a serious scene to shoot. It's like, so then I just rewrote that for this person and just put the girl on a park bench. So a park bench you could do outside, you could do it for free, and you still have the kids walking by and ignoring her, and or maybe other kids sit at the edge of the bench and then get up, don't even look her way, and it's like that one is basically free. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, before you even did this killer script, you should have thought about the financing. But if you got it, and afterwards, now you got to look at it, and the first step is to say, what realistically can I do this for, as cheap as possible without losing any production value.
That's interesting. So keeping the integrity of the script, but looking at it from a financial point of view to see how you can do it as cheaply as possible.
Yeah, then that little teeny example I just gave you with the school bus versus the park bench. Yeah. I mean, that's does that lose any integrity of the movie? You're not. I mean, if you went from a baseball stadium to a park bench, yeah, you're probably changing the integrity of the movie. But if the school bus and park bench, you're not changing anything. So yeah, you don't want to lose production value. You don't want to lose integrity. So you got to look, and say, okay, how can I do this? What scenes can I never lose? And this has to be done in in a log cabin. You know what I mean? Like, and that something like that. And so okay, I can't lose the log cabin. That's so important to the script.
Yeah, and Sam is saying get well prepared and use imagination, I guess.
Yeah, use imagination and creativity, and a lot of times in studio films and studio directors, that's why they have a tough time coming down and doing independent films, is because the mentality is, well, let's just pay for it, we'll build it, and in the independent films is let's find a solution, and that's why many times I worked with former studio directors, and it was very difficult because when you could tell them we don't have any money to do this, they wouldn't think of solutions. They would just jump up and down and scream and and pout and all that stuff. And versus maybe a young first-time director goes, what can we use for a log cabin instead? Let's use a shed, or something like, I don't know, it's something, and they think of a solution, which is it's much better for an independent film.
So I guess you've got the movie you want and the movie you're going to get.
Yes, and you want to find a happy medium in between, again, so that you're not sacrificing anything. But again, all of this is, the preparedness, the preparation that you're doing is looking at a script from a producer's mindset. Those are the words right there. You're looking at it and saying, how, can this best be served economically? And it's not just settings and locations. It's number of characters. It's size of the parts. Every part is a small part. How are you going to get a big star or a well-named actor to play this thing? And So it's all of that stuff that you need to do that prep kind of even before you have your script, or if you have it, do it afterwards and reshape and rewrite the script.
One of the other problems that we got when we did the survey was a clash between writers, directors, and actors. Is this part of that where the producers and the directors are saying we need to cut back on certain areas, and the script writers are saying, well, this is not the movie I wanted?
Yes, but the key is that's putting the writers separate, and if the writer's just the right, I mean, yeah, there's always battles and there's always egos, and artists, have these big egos, and it's all true. We all do. But the key is, if the writer is thinking from the producer's mindset, or the writer's on board as a kind of producer, then it's a little easier to do that, So if you're just the writer selling the script and you're independent from the producer director, or say you're a producer on the line or director on the line, you've acquired a script, okay, you may have some hurdles to go through, but you really just need somebody that's on board from the start, and it's not. I mean, I went through a nightmare with my last film with the writer, and it's ongoing, and so one of my friends, a guy named Dan Solinger, line producer, maybe 45 films or so, said that he knows as much as he pretty much can about lights and and crew and procedures. Says, but every new movie he does, he learns how to completely new lesson on how to manage personalities. And I'm like, God, that's so true. You have a new set of challenges. So there's always going to be challenges, but at the end of the day, remember that everybody wants to make the best film and be most successful. And the key, all I can say is, if you have a nightmare, which I've had several times, nightmare director once, nightmare writer this last time, get rid of them. Don't use them again. You'd be a fool to work with that person again.
Yeah, and during the making of our movie Bad Romance, we actually experienced quite a lot of things of what not to do, which I actually found very helpful. In fact, I think I learned more from the mistakes that we made than we actually did from the things that were working well.
Yeah, you want to get better and better and keep changing your approach, and and trying to be more and more successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Financiers, film financiers, are they generally more corporations, or is it individuals in your experience?
Individuals are much better and easier to get, easier to manage. The key is, the phrase I used in my book was, if you're looking for investors, kind of get out of Dodge. And what I mean by that is stay out of anybody that's associated with the film business, because they're usually cynical, and they have their own priorities, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. They have their own projects they're dealing with. They have their own intentions. I look at it as the film business is kind of secret and special and exciting, and you're letting this person in to this world. So you don't want the person that that's a producer and maybe produced a movie 10 years ago or whatever, studio guy. You want the person that made $1 million, $20 million making refrigerators. You want that person, because that person's world is refrigerators, and that's all he does, and that's all. Maybe he made a fortune creating refrigerators, but never did anything outside there, and secretly wants to make a movie about XYZ. And that's the person you want to get, because you're the conduit to let them into that film world, and you're giving that person value.
Yeah, and I can relate to that very much, because, as I said, it was my dream to be in movies since I was 15. I'm 49 now, and I've been doing laser shows and entertainment from the back end of it, behind the scenes. And one of my friends came to me and said, "Can you help us out with $10,000?" And I said, "Sure." We gave the $10,000, and the movie was produced. And I tell you, it was the first time in my life that I got a buzz like I got when I saw my name up on the screen.
Yeah.
It was a really cool moment in my life.
It's a sexy investment. It's very cool for the person that made their money, selling wood, to go on the golf course and say, hey, by the way, I've got a movie that I'm doing, and then suddenly there are these actors that are friends with you now, and that now you get to text and talk on the phone with, and they're these big stars, and so there's something so very exciting about it. different than, investing in, pig futures or whatever. You know what I mean? It's something very exciting about the movie business. So that's what you have to be the person that lets them in and opens that door for them.
So I guess this is a bit like balancing a business and an art together.
Very much so. It's again, it is show business, and you need to look at it that way and kind of find a happy medium in the middle. You don't want to just make these. But let me say, if there's one side that you should lean more towards, it'd be the business side. People ask me all the time, what book should I read to get better as a producer besides your book? And, I'll tell them read books on sales. If you had to say who would be more likely to get money for their movie, the guy that read 10 books on sales or the guy that read 10 books on producing? I'd say the guy that read 10 books on sales. Because you're always selling, and it's yourself that you're selling. So you kind of have to have that business mentality of, what if I was financing the film? Well, that may not work as much because obviously you give yourself the money. So I put it, when I teach the seminars, I tell them, think of your parents. Maybe your parents, they worked their 40 years, 50 years, and they accumulated $1 million. Now you take their $1 million, and if you don't turn in profit, they're going to be on the welfare, and they're going to have no money, and you literally bankrupted them. But if you take their $1 million, could you turn it into $2 million and double their net worth? So you need to get it to where the project is that, and it's not just a belief. It's on paper, and it makes sense. And even the movies that I've done that haven't made money, each time I believed that they would, and I tried every single thing possible to get them to be profitable. And then when they finally ultimately didn't, I had to look back and say what went wrong, and what can I do the next time.
So you're recommending, as in a business, having a business plan for each movie?
Without question. You need to have a business plan. It needs to be organic. It needs to be able to change, to suit which investor you're approaching, and kind of, you're adding elements to it. So when I say it needs to be organic, it's never just going to be a fix. I never tell people, get a business plan and print 50 copies of it. Big mistake. It's because you're going to, add components and things to it. So it has to be organic and growing it all the time. But without question, there's a business plan. There's, these are all things that you need to do. And I know the artist in many people, you're a director or whatever, goes, ugh, I don't want to do all this. Well, you can not do it and make no movie, or make a movie with, your DSLR that you bought and you saved up a couple grand, and, but you don't have any professional cast. Or you can raise the money, and whether it's $30,000, whether it's $50,000, whether it's $500,000, whether it's $5 million, at least then you're making a professional film with money that you've raised.
Great. Well, at this point, Sam just sent me a message that he wants to ask a question. So let me open the lines, if that's okay.
Sure.
And we'll speak to him directly. Sam, I've unmuted your line. You should be able to talk to us now. Are you there, Sam? You have a microphone?
Oh, there you go. Oh, Sam is a top matrix printer, apparently. I just hear that.
Yeah. Sam, you there?
Buzzing. Oh, no, you can barely hear him.
Yeah, almost. I can't hear you, Sam. So keep on trying. I'll come back to you shortly in a minute. If you have any more questions, just keep typing them in. I'll relay them.
Yeah, have him type the question. Can he type the question to me?
Yep, I'll relay them to Tom. We absolutely can't hear you right now, so we'll just carry on at the moment and wait for your questions to come in, and then we'll try again a bit later.
You could hear the buzzing of him trying to talk. It might have been a microphone issue or whatever.
Yeah.
You could hear a little buzzing of him making out the words. But,
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll hear from him shortly. Going back to financing, then, the world is changing, and there's lots of different things going on in financing now. I watched The Greatest Movie Ever Sold recently, which was one of my inspirations to do this. What do you think about product placement to help financing a film?
The problem, I think, with product placement is, I think I have a guy that I've worked with now in the past 2 films, and I think that there's definitely a place for it. The problem is, a lot of young filmmakers think, well, I'm gonna, get Apple or get Red Bull to finance my film, and it's probably not going to happen because now, again, think of it from the business and marketing side. You're, say I own, the biggest water bottle company, in America, or whatever, and you approach me, Tim, and you say, I want to put your water bottle in my film. Can you give me $50,000? Whatever. It's like, number one, how do I know anyone will ever see your film? Number two, how do I know your film is not going to be a piece of crap? It's like, so those are things that independent filmmakers don't realize, that even if your film is great, it may not be seen by anybody. And for me, as a selling of water bottles, how does that help my product? It doesn't help my product at all. And so that's not, there's no reason for me at that point to give you money. I mean, what I'll do is I'll give you product. I'll give you free water bottles. I'll give you cases and cases of free water bottles, but I'm not going to give you $50,000. So the product placement money-wise only usually happens in the films that are guaranteed 3,000, 4,000 theaters, if that makes sense.
That's very interesting because we have been talking to some people out here about product placement. There's a fairly positive feel about it because normal standards of advertising are changing. The retention value of adverts on TV are dying, and people go and making the coffee when the adverts come on, and things like that. So there is some interest, but it's an interesting point you make. How do we guarantee that the movie's ever going to be shown or seen?
So that why does the product want to give you money, or the owners of the product want to give you money at that point?
Absolutely. So if we were going to use product placement to help finance our films, we would need to have some kind of figures and distribution channels to show that's going to be possible.
Exactly.
Interesting. Very good. I'd never really even thought about that. That's cool.
Yeah, again, you think of it from the business aspect of it. You think of it from the product placement. Yeah.
So I guess when you're putting a team together, you really need like the businessman and the artist in a movie.
Well, or you need to be both. You need to have both aspects and kind of embrace that, and be both sides of that. And again, like I said, the director, producer, actor doesn't want to think that way, but you have to.
Yeah. All right, great. And then moving on, crowdfunding. Have you used crowdfunding much?
You know what? The only thing I do crowdfunding is I mentor a lot of young filmmakers, and I've done, I think, 9 short films now, and I've had them all raise their money on Kickstarter, and they plaster my name, and it's so funny because I get a bunch of IMDb credits as executive producer of a short film because I'm kind of just helping them do it, and then I started saying, this is looking bad. It looks like I went from features to shorts, so I made them stop giving me credit on the films. But in the meantime, I guess crowdfunding again is a kind of new thing, and in many ways it's exciting because you go, I'm going to put my project up on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or something, and everybody's going to give $50, and that's how I'm going to raise the money. But the problem is you're going to raise like 20 grand at the most. And I mean, my friends went on, and I think they raised 20,000 for a great movie called Absentia. But the movie itself was only like a $30,000 film, and they did well. But I mean, and to get that $20,000, I mean, they went through hoops. They were on Kickstarter every day, and I was like, what if you put all this energy into going and trying to find investors that would back your film, and it might be one person that needs that $20,000 tax write-off versus you were on Kickstarter doing as much work as you would have done, because what I'm saying is on those crowdfunding sites, you need to put a ton of work in for them to get it. It's rare, and I guess many filmmakers think, let me just post my project, I'll make a video, or I'll make some nice graphics, and I'll give away some stuff, and bang, let me just sit back, and a month later I'm going to collect the money. And it's not that, and so crowdfunding works, maybe Kickstarter works in the approach that it could kickstart your project, and you could raise a couple grand, maybe 10, 15 grand to start your movie, but I don't see it as far as a source of funding films completely unless you're making ultra low budget films.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the whole I mean, first of all, I love the excitement that I can hear in your voice. You seem to be really excited about the different topics, and
Yeah.
that's cool. Um, but I think what I'm really picking up between the lines of what you're saying is that product placement and crowdfunding, they have their place, but at the end of the day, it's really down to raising cash from individuals who are interested in having their stuff in movies in a business manner style.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I was saying, and that's what the fact is, that, like I was at this, it was a meeting for, filmmakers or something like that, and I've been invited to host it. I forget what the heck the name was, the name of a festival, but oh, Happy Independence Day. What's that? Or Independence Day or something like that. But Independence is like as far as Independence film, which I thought was a really cool name for a film festival. But anyway, I was the kind of the expert that was brought in, and people were asking me all these things about business plans and things like that, and I'm talking to them, and then somebody was just like, "Well, the budget of my film is $30,000," and it was almost like, well, that's a little low for going through all these steps of business plans and things like that. I kind of say that when what I'm talking about when I talk about preparation before is doing more of a say anywhere in the range $200,000 to $5 million. And that's what I'm talking about as far as the business plans and all that. You need all the preparation no matter what budget movie you're doing. I just did the lowest one I've ever done, and it was a little under $100,000, and sold it right away for profit, and so you do need preparation and all that stuff, but it's crowdfunding. You might you might be talking about a different world. Does that make sense? Is that there may be people that are saying, oh yeah, well, I want to make my movie. It's $3,000 horror film. Okay, that's a different different world than saying it's a $450,000.
Yep. I really hear that and get it entirely. And in the laser world, doing a $1,000 show for a night is pretty much the same amount of work as a $10,000 show. There's not much difference between the two. You still got to do the quotations. You still got to turn up with the staff. You still got to drive there to the venues and ingress all the equipment. And the actual workload between the two different shows is very dissimilar. It's almost the same.
And then you see that all the time. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that the same in the movie world? A small script or a small movie, pretty much the same preparation levels as a full-blown movie?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's unless you're talking something really small, but it's but once you get to a certain size of a film, yeah, it is the same. It's just like there's a great scene in a great movie called Hoosiers about when they make it to the basketball finals, and Gene Hackman, who plays the coach, the players are really intimidated because they're used to playing in these small stadiums, and Gene Hackman, who plays the coach, first thing he does, he goes and takes the team and he takes a tape measure and he puts the tape measure up to the basket, on the rim, and throws it down and says, and measures everything, and then kind of proves to the team it's the same size court. It's just there's 50,000 people in the stands versus 2,000 people in the stands. Same exact basketball size, everything was the same. He does it with the tape measure. It's a great scene.
Yeah,
it's the same thing in the restaurants. That the restaurants where the guy is slinging hash and running back and forth. He's putting the same amount of effort in that restaurant where the check may be $20 versus the high-end restaurant where the check may be $200, and they're going to get a much bigger tip in the high-end restaurant, but you're doing the exact same amount of work. Yeah. So that's much the same in the film. It's again when you're talking $3,000 movies, no, that's not. But when you're talking $300,000 movies, $3 million movies, $30 million movies, they're all pretty much the same except for the size of the crew and the speed at which they move.
That's very interesting comments. I really hear what you're saying there completely. Again, in the good old days, I remember watching movies being shot in film. And in fact, in Manila, I still see guys riding around on a bicycle with a roll of film as they're going from cinema to cinema. Wow. World is changing now as we're going into digital and internet. Is that having a big change on the way we finance movies? Moving into
without question. Yeah, without question. I mean, the bottom line is, who's buying DVDs anymore? And that's a big problem. It happened. It happened, right in the middle of making movies when I was doing the bigger films, it was like suddenly people don't buy DVDs anymore. They want to go on their set-top box and they want to just order it on demand. And you know, that's getting worse and worse. I mean, look at Blockbuster completely going out of business. That's a direct result of nobody buying movies anymore. So yeah, it's changing because that DVD sales supported the industry a lot. You know, back in 2004, 2003, 2000, you know, before then, you could guarantee shipments of DVDs, you know, in the millions no matter what, and that was a big thing. And now the fact is, nobody wants to buy. Again, nobody's buying DVDs anymore. They want to download it. They want it on their, you know, their on demand. You know, so yeah, it's a big problem. I don't have all the answers. I mean, you know, it's what can I say? Is, you know, I think that more and more the most profitable movies are the ones either over 80 million or under, you know, 1 million. You know, that's the only way. Other than that, man, it's really tough because there's no, again, looking at the business aspect, there's no product to support it. You're not shipping and packing DVDs anymore.
Yeah, so I guess the distribution companies really need to be making changes now the way they handle distribution of movies, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the distributors always seem to never lose money. They always seem to be right on track.
But one of the things I heard you talking about earlier was short film financing. Do you think that filmmakers should get experience in short film financing before taking on a full-length movie, or is it pretty much the same?
There's parts that are the same. I think no, I don't think it's short film financing that does you any good. I think making a short film as a director or producer, if you're new, would help because it's like a day in a film, you know, or 2 days in a film, and so you can see that aspect of it. A director can be a calling card, but other than that, you know, you have to have the mindset that you want to make features because short films don't make money historically and really just don't. I mean, that's the truth. It'd be a lottery ticket if you did, but you don't want to, you know, you don't want to get in that world of short films unless you're doing it for a purpose. As a director, you're doing it because I want to get better. As a director, as a producer, you're doing it because you're saying, I want to, you know, see if I can do this for a day so that I can sustain this for a month. But no, as far as trying to raise money for short films, I don't think that's going to help you.
All right, well,
because let me tell you, just to add to that, it's harder because you're going in knowing it's not going to make money. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you raise money for that? Oh, they guarantee you this short film will not make it. Short films don't make money. Who buys them? You know?
You just dropped out a minute, Tom.
Oh, I said I'm sorry, John. I must have. I said yeah, short films. You know, they don't make money.
Yeah, you know, this is really interesting. I'm really grateful for the time that you spent with us tonight because hearing it from the mouth of an experienced filmmaker director is really awesome. You know, there's what I think we know and what really is, and there's a big gap between those two things. I think, especially for me coming in to the movie industry. You know, if you ask me about lasers, I can tell you. But as I'm making this transition, it's very helpful for me to talk to you, and I'm sure that when we put this recording up online, it's going to really help a lot of people as well, especially the new directors and producers that are coming in.
Great.
So, you know, I know I'm very grateful, and I'm sure they will be too.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Well, moving a bit closer, you know, I'm actually thinking about writing my own script for a movie that is part of my life story. And I know a lot of people around me who are in the same position. What 3 things could you recommend aspiring filmmakers do today to get closer to marketing, making, and selling a movie?
So, say that again. What 3 things? What was the middle part?
You know, 1 or 2 things that should a filmmaker really do to make, market, and sell a movie?
Okay.
Just recapping, basically.
Yeah. Well, you got to start with a great script. You know, thinking again from a producer's mindset, and then you have to add elements to it that make sense. Meaning, A-list cast. You know, cast that's sellable, and so again, thinking from meaning what I always say is you got to take your liabilities out of there. If it's this great script and you have this very cool story and you have a great idea of marketing, but you're playing the only role in the movie or something like that. It's something like it's your version of Castaway with Tom Hanks, but it's you and you're a nobody. Well, that's tough. It's tough to do. So you got to kind of take those liabilities out of the film. So I would say get the greatest script you can, try to get the biggest attachments you can, and try not to be insane about that thing. I call them insanities versus liabilities in the book, but you got to take the insane things out of there, and the liabilities you got to try to have as few as possible, and try to put as many things in there that'll try to make it successful.
And having a good cast presumably makes the film more expensive, but does that attract more money?
Oh yeah, without question. I'll tell you an example of a perfect film these days. A perfect film as far as an independent that's going to make money. And it's a movie called The Sessions with John Hawkes. And he plays this quadriplegic and can only move from his neck up. The movie's made for $1 million. I was talking to the director, and it was like, basically what happened is he got a great script. He was a writer-director. He writes the story, great script. Then got John Hawkes. Mm-hmm. John Hawkes was nominated for Academy Award at Winter's Bone a couple years ago. So right away that added clout. That brought Helen Hunt on. Then that brought William H. Macy on. And then you had, they had Adam Arkin, a couple other character actors. But the bottom line is that movie for $1 million could be a test pattern. And it's going to make money based on their names alone. And those people all did that because it was a good script and it's a serious movie. If it was a crappy horror film, no chance. Or a karate action movie. If you're not going to get Helen Hunt and all those people. So then, Helen Hunt gets an Oscar nomination. I think John almost did. He got a SAG and a Golden Globe nomination, I believe. You're guaranteed. Probably they'll make $20 million off of that movie. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day. So that's an example of a model to emulate.
Very interesting. Great comments. We've spoken a lot about the films. A lot of your thoughts on financing, and you've mentioned the book a couple of times. Bankroll, a new approach to financing feature films. Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the book?
Well, yeah. That was really putting all of the ideas and techniques down. I used to, in Los Angeles, people would email me and through my website and ask me, hey, can you help me out on my film? And I always was giving back, and I'd go meet them for lunch, and then I'd end up usually paying for the lunch as they were broke filmmakers or whatever. So then afterwards I said, I got to stop doing this. I got to focus on my own career. I got 2 kids and all that. And so that was kind of the motivation behind it, was to say all those lunch meetings, here's all the advice that I was giving,
And is the book like an ABC 1, 2, 3, follow this step, this step, this step, or is it what is it exactly?
Oh yeah, it is. It's a combination. I think that's why it's so well reviewed, is that it's a combination of practical steps, but also stories of failures and successes, and from myself and other people, and how to so that you can kind of take the road quickest, from point A to point B, and not go zigzag all over like I did.
Okay, and I don't know if you can see my screen at all, but at the moment I'm showing some of the comments that people have made about the book from Amazon, and it seems to have a very positive response from people who have bought it. Do you have any stories of people who have bought it, used it, applied it, and made great films?
Yeah, I get emails probably 1 a week now. When it first came out, there was up to 3 or 4 a week, which was really cool. But I'd still get 1 a week just saying how much it helped change their life and inspire them, and I love every one of those emails. I try to get back to every single person. And gosh, if I asked every one of those to write reviews, I would have 300-400. But I should just have an autoresponder that says, hey, could you write a review? But in the meantime, some credits have started popping up on IMDb, and I don't even know the films or the filmmakers. I think there's one that's like executive consultant, and then there's one producers would like to thank. And I know that that guy is friends with me now. we met at Sundance, and so. But I got credits. I didn't even have anything to do with the film. The only reason they did it is because they read the book. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. I've got a link up for the audience, which will take them automatically to the Amazon page. It's at www.argonette.com/bankroll. So you don't have to go and search for it in Amazon. That'll take you directly to the link for the book. It's I think it was featured at the moment at $17.92. I think $18 is an absolute steal for the amount of information that you're going to give us, I guess.
Yeah, and I got something even better than that. You know, it's and the books. I obviously highly recommend. That's the second edition. But I used to have I have a CD online audio course that's sells online. I think $129, but that's the same as an all-day seminar. But I recently put that online. So now you can just go in and listen to it, and then you'll always have it there. You'll have a login and password, and you can always go in and do it. And I think it's like $29.99. So you're only $10 more than the book, and you have the same equivalent. I think there's over 5 hours of information of of basically exactly what you get in the seminar.
Fantastic. And how do we get hold of that?
It's at bankrollthebook.com, and it should be in the top right corner.
Bankrollbook.com.
No, bankrollthebook.
Oh, bankroll the book. Okay, I'm just gonna get that down. Bankrollthebook.com. Okay, I'll check that out later, and I'll also add that in. That sounds great. So if I get a copy of all this, or one of the listeners gets a copy of this, this will work. The system that you show will work basically on a worldwide basis, or is it specifically for America?
No, worldwide. I mean, there may be some challenges, I would say, in countries like China and things like that that might have more government censorship and organizations like that. But other than that, it's getting somebody excited about the film, no matter where you are.
Well, fantastic. I think I've got to take a look at both of those and see if I can start raising some more money for my next movie.
Yes.
$20 million sounds awesome. I wish someone would send me $20 million.
Yeah, well, that's not just one, at a time.
For sure.
Here and there and everywhere.
Well, listen, Tom, we've been nearly an hour. It's been absolutely awesome having you on the call today, and I'm so happy to have met you. And I hope that we can invite you back again sometime. We'll get a bigger audience going, and you can be part of the community a bit longer. I'm putting a lot of stuff together on the website over the coming weeks, and I will certainly include this in it. Really appreciate you taking the time coming on the call, and I don't know about everyone else, but I've learned and discovered so much from you, and I want to really thank you for being my first guest about movies. Not the first guest we've ever had on Awesome FM, but definitely the first guest about movies, and I look forward to connecting with you so much more over the coming weeks and months, and it's been fantastic talking to you.
Great. Well, thank you for having me on. Fantastic.
And Sam actually had to leave. He was in a war zone area. He said he had bombs dropping around him, and he was kind of a bit scared for his safety. So I think he's gone and hiding somewhere.
Wow. Okay. Well.
But maybe you can make a movie about that. That's an awesome experience. Yes.
Wow.
Anyway, thanks for being here, and thanks to everyone for being on the call tonight. If you've got any questions that have not been answered tonight by Tom or myself, you can send them to me at argonanimation@gmail.com, and I will forward them on to Tom to get them answered. Once again, Tom, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you on the call today, and don't forget to get Tom's help with his awesome book at www.argonette.com/bankroll. This is Tim Bennett for Awesome FM, wishing you an incredible day wherever you are. And we have been talking to the one and only Tom Malloy about movie finance.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Tom.